Say you got a quarterback who's crumpling when it matters most. At that point, it sort of doesn't matter how good he is.
How do you fix the Vikings?
I get rid of Kirk Cousins. Got to get rid of Kirk Cousins.
There are several NFL veterans that just don't inspire much confidence when the stakes are at their highest. Every time the game is in their hands, you can't help but to feel as though their team is just going to take another L. So, here are 10 NFL players you don't want to rely on when the game is on the line. Kirk Cousins. The polarizing Minnesota Vikings quarterback is this era's Tony Romo. He's paid big money to win championships, but as good as the individual stats may be, Cousins just doesn't seem to come through when it matters most. Cousins has been a regular starter at quarterback since 2015. His teams have only made the playoffs 3 times, and Cousins has just one lone postseason victory, which was against the New Orleans Saints in the 2019 wildcard round. They say that wins aren't a good stat to measure quarterbacks by, and that much is true. But Case Keenum, who's supposedly a far worse QB than Cousins, took Minnesota to the NFC Championship game in 2017. Cousins' awful record against teams with winning records, especially since he joined the Vikings in 2018, has been very well documented. You just can't trust him to close out big games against marquee opponents, and one playoff win as a starter through the 2021 season speaks for itself. Sure, there were the heroics against the Saints in the 2019-2020 playoffs and some big-time performances against Aaron Rodgers, but even QBs like Blake Bortles, Joe Flacco, Jared Goff, and Jimmy Garoppolo have way more playoff wins than Cousins. Cousins' Pro Bowl caliber stats don't lie, but neither does his inability to lead his team when it matters most, be it in Washington or Minnesota. And that's just a fact. Matt Ryan. We really hate putting one of the NFL's ultimate good guys on here, but you just gotta look at all those Atlanta Falcons collapses that happened under his watch. No, all those blown leads over the years, like Super Bowl 51, weren't all on Ryan.
It's not your fault. Don't do this to me, man. Not you, man. It's not your fault. Screw you. Cut it out, man. It's not your fault. Why is it so hard?
It's not as if he continuously threw game-changing interceptions or made horrible decisions. It's just the offense would always go ice cold in the final stages of those big losses, while the Atlanta D would undergo its usual self-destruction. In some ways, it's criminal that Matty Ice has 4 playoff wins on his resume, but his overall play on the grandest of stages just doesn't seem to be enough. He had 2.5 excellent quarters against New England in the biggest game of his career before going silent the rest of the way. Maybe Ryan will change the narrative in Indianapolis, but it's hard to feel good about his chances of putting away a close game when you think of all those awful collapses he experienced with the Falcons, especially that 28-3 debacle. That'll always be a hard one to live down. Whoever kicks for the Minnesota Vikings? Do we really have to explain this one? No professional sports franchise is more snake-bitten at a specific position than the Minnesota Vikings have been with kickers. It all started when Gary Anderson, who hadn't missed a kick all year, missed a field goal that would have sealed the 1998 NFC Championship game for many.
Gary Anderson will make this field goal. The answer should probably be yes.
39 yards away. Not good.
And as everyone knows by now, the Falcons would take advantage of that mistake and book their ticket to Super Bowl 33. And then he had Blair Walsh missing the easiest, albeit most pressure-packed kick of his career against the Seattle Seahawks in the 2015 wildcard round. And who can forget the Week 2 2018 thriller between the Vikings and Green Bay Packers? You know, when rookie Daniel Carlson missed all 3 attempts, including 2 in overtime, which led to the game ending in a tie? By the way, he was released after that game. You also had Greg Joseph missing a 37-yarder against the Arizona Cardinals in Week 2 of the 2021 season, which dropped Mini to 0-2 en route to a second straight losing season. Must we say more? Many fans know all too well that regardless of who lines up for a kick with the game on the line, chances are, if they're wearing a Vikings jersey, they'll more than likely miss it.
He misses again.
Kevin King. The Green Bay Packers secondary was supposed to be a strength for their 2020 NFC Championship showdown at home against Tom Brady in the vaunted Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. But aside from Brady's 3 interceptions, one of them being a lucky bounce that wasn't his fault, the GOAT had a field day against this defense. And it was largely thanks to 2 inexcusable hiccups by veteran corner Kevin King. On the opening drive, King mistimed his jump on a throw to the end zone to Mike Evans, who made the easy snag for 6. King could have easily knocked the ball away or even picked it off if he waited patiently. 7-point swing right there. And then there was the whole letting Scotty Miller run right behind him for a buzzer-beating touchdown at halftime. A score that proved to be the difference. Not to mention his awful pass interference penalty on Tyler Johnson that essentially sealed the game for Tampa. It's not just the Bucs game, though. According to Pro Football Reference, King allowed 7 completions on 8 targets in their 2020 divisional round win over the Los Angeles Rams. And even though they beat the Seahawks in the 2019 divisional round, King allowed all 4 targets his way to go for completions. PFR has him down for 17 completions allowed on 23 targets for 195 yards and 2 touchdowns in 5 playoff games. Yeah, that just isn't gonna cut it in crunch time. AJ Green. No, we didn't put Green on here because of that forgettable miscue in the Cardinals' Week 8 2021 home loss to the Packers. You know, when he failed to turn around on Kyler Murray's end zone pass that wound up being intercepted by Rasul Douglas to seal the game. It's also the fact that the likely future Hall of Famer simply hasn't been much of an impact player when it matters most. The numbers don't lie. As a Cincinnati Bengal, Green averaged 74.3 receiving yards, 5.1 receptions, and 14.5 yards per catch. Those are some pretty elite numbers, but in 4 playoff games with the Bengals, those averages fell to 58 yards, 4.5 receptions, and 12.9 yards per catch. And he only had 1 touchdown in those 4 playoff contests. And in the Cardinals' 2021 NFC wildcard round blowout loss to the Rams, Green had 0 catches. For whatever reason, the man just cannot produce in the playoffs like he so often does during the regular season. Some of the greatest receivers of the past couple decades, like Larry Fitzgerald, Julio Jones, and Cooper Kupp, have excelled in the postseason. Too bad we can't say the same for AJ Green. Eli Apple. The 10th overall pick of the 2016 draft by the New York Giants has never come close to reaching those once-high expectations. Not only has he failed to develop into a star, but Apple has proven to be unreliable in big game situations at cornerback. We probably don't need to remind you about his awful performance in the Bengals' heartbreaking Super Bowl 56 loss to the Los Angeles Rams, but we're going to anyways, as he gave up 2 touchdowns to Cooper Kupp, including the game winner with 1:25 remaining. Truth be told, Apple has always been bad in the postseason. According to Pro Football Reference, he's allowed a 66.7 completion percentage when targeted in 6 playoff games, allowing 262 total yards and 4 touchdowns in coverage. He's fine as a depth corner, but the Bengals learned the hard way that you don't want to put this guy up against the opposition's top receivers with the game on the line. And if you do, prepare to be disappointed. D. Ford. Kansas City Chiefs fans hate being reminded of Ford's costly penalty in the 2018 AFC Championship game against the Patriots, but it's always gonna be hard to forget. It's not just this one mistake that had us put Ford in here, though. Despite a strong track record in the regular season, he's been mostly non-existent in the postseason throughout his career. In 8 career playoff games, Ford had a mere 2.5 sacks and just 17 combined tackles. In Super Bowl 54, as a member of the San Francisco 49ers, Ford was a complete non-factor, as he was unable to get to Mahomes during KC's thrilling comeback victory. The track record speaks for itself. Ford is not somebody you can count on to break through in clutch situations. Ezekiel Elliott. The 3-time Pro Bowler was the definition of a game changer over his first 3 seasons, leading the Dallas Cowboys to a pair of NFC East Division titles. But Zeke quickly hit a wall in year 4 and really hasn't been the same ever since. Notice that the Cowboys used a lot more of Tony Pollard in big game situations over the 2021 season? Well, it's because Zeke just doesn't have the same juice or explosiveness anymore. His carelessness with the football has also been well documented. Elliott fumbled 22 times over his first 6 seasons, including 6 in the 2020 season. It's been a long time since he struck fear into the hearts of opposing defenses with the game on the line. He just doesn't take over in crunch time the way other marquee running backs like Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, and Nick Chubb do. Andy Dalton. Dalton played on some stacked Cincinnati Bengals teams, but he could never do enough to help them even win 1 playoff game during his tenure. I mean, should we give you the stats? Dalton had 1 touchdown against 6 interceptions in 4 playoff games. He also had 2 fumbles lost and a woeful 55.7 completion percentage. Dalton had the chance to rewrite the narrative when he had to take over for an injured Dak Prescott in Week 5 of the 2020 season. But even a star-studded group of offensive playmakers wasn't enough for Dalton, who went 4-5 with 14 touchdowns against 8 picks in relief of Dak. Dallas failed to win a very easy NFC East that year thanks to Dalton's shortcomings. Washington took it with a laughable 7-9 record instead. Think about that. Not even Ezekiel Elliott, Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and a top-tier offensive line were enough for the Red Rocket to succeed. There's a reason he had to accept a backup role at this stage of his career. Dalton just isn't a reliable option for any team that's looking to win some big games. Carson Wentz. There was hope among the Wentz supporters and Indianapolis Colts fans that the number 2 pick of the 2016 draft would regain his star-like form under Frank Reich. Following a dismal final season with the Philadelphia Eagles, Wentz was traded to the Colts in a blockbuster deal that included a 2022 first-round pick. But it only took the Colts 1 year to decide that they were done with Wentz, whose inconsistent play cost them the opportunity to go on a deep playoff run. He committed costly turnovers and tight losses against the Tennessee Titans and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then he imploded against the NFL's worst team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, in a Week 18 win-or-go-home game. Honestly, what more do you need to know? If he can't lead his team to a victory against a sad franchise like the Jaguars, why should you think Wentz will suddenly figure it out and become Captain Clutch? The Washington Commanders, who were desperate for a QB, decided to take a chance on Wentz in 2022. But it's hard to see him being the answer in DC. Wentz just isn't a QB who's suited to win when all the pressure is placed on his shoulders. But which other NFL players would you not want to rely on with a game on the line? Join us in the comment section below. If you liked this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton, and hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.